remember the last time you struggled to apologize to your child or maybe admit a mistake to your spouse, your partner, whoever that is? Well, there is a reason it's so hard, and it's not just stubbornness. Today, we're digging into the complex emotion of pride, how it shows up in our parenting, our marriages, and even our self talk. So, get ready for some honest conversations and practical tips to help you navigate these difficult waters. Welcome back, my friends, to Fulfillment Therapy, the podcast for parents seeking to improve their mental health, wellness, and life fulfillment. I'm your host, Kendra Nielsen, and today we're discussing a topic that affects us all, which is pride. We're going to explore how pride can impact our relationships, our parenting, and overall well being in ways that begin subtly and create these massive wedges over time. We're going to share the antidote on how to cultivate humility for a more fulfilling life. But before we jump all into that, I'm going to start today with a self assessment quiz for you for pride. So answer these few questions if you are not sure if you're prideful or not. Like, maybe your spouse would tell you, oh, yeah, you totally are. But you're really not certain if you are or not. So answer these questions. Do you often find yourself comparing your parenting style to others? Is it difficult for you to admit mistakes to your spouse or your kids? Do you feel resentful when your efforts aren't recognized or even praised? Are you reluctant to ask for help even when you're overwhelmed? And do you frequently criticize or judge others' choices or behaviors? If you answered yes to two or more of those, pride might be playing a bigger role in your life than you realize. So let's break it down very simply. What is pride? So, this is essentially a sense of this inflated self importance or this exaggerated belief in your abilities or in your worth. It's not just about feeling good about your accomplishments, but it's about placing yourselves above others and becoming resistant to growth and change. And I think that's the key there for a lot of my clients and for myself as well. Like, do we feel like we're resistant? I would say most of us don't think we're resistant to growth, but are we resistant to somebody else's ideas or to change that somebody else instigates? And that is the key. I love Spencer W. Kimball's definition of pride. This is what he says: pride is self will as opposed to God's will. It's putting man's ways before God's ways. Now, when I was studying this out, I'm like, okay, I put my ways before other people's ways often. I feel like I'm a leader. I run with things when I have ideas, but often it is my way before others. It's not necessarily always this collaboration because collaboration can take time. And I think sometimes that manifests then as pride. And maybe it does for you as well. Ezra Taft Benson said this on pride. Pride is characterized by what do I want out of life rather than what would God have me do with my life. It is self will as opposed to God's will. So, same kind of thing being said. And I've thought about this a lot as I've developed fulfillment therapy. I often think, what do I want out of life? And I don't think it's often through the lens of pride, but you'll have to explore that for yourself. Like, that is not an inappropriate question or an unfair question, but I think it is just a beginning space where God is going to create so much more. Do you remember the quote from C.S. Lewis about how he's making so much more out of us than we would make out of ourselves? Like, we'd make this tiny little cottage, and he's trying to make a palace. But when we are so focused on doing it our way, we don't see there's a much better way that can take place if we will allow it to. So again, whenever we prioritize our own desires over God's will, then this leads to pride in many different ways in our lives. And I'm going to share some of those ways. So that can be competitiveness with others. That can be resistance to any guidance, whether it's divine or from other people. That's difficulty in admitting mistakes. That's seeking praise from others rather than from God. And it can show up also in our families. So understanding this can help us make these little shifts and identify how it can show up in our families. For example, It can be comparing our parenting styles or our family achievements to other people's. It can be refusing to apologize to your spouse or to your kids. It can be resisting advice or help from other people, even when we're struggling. Those are just a few ways that it can show up. Now, what about in marriage? This really affects marriages, and I see this with my clients all the time. It can manifest as difficulty admitting your faults or apologizing to your spouse. That constant competition or one upmanship, even if you don't recognize you're doing it, maybe ask your older kids, do you think I'm competitive with your dad or with your mom or prideful sometimes? Or do you think I struggle at admitting when I'm right or apologizing? Like, that's a good self check. And if you find yourself hesitant to ask, it's probably because you know the answer. Can also be an unwillingness to compromise or to see your spouse's perspective. And probably see this one the most, where they feel justified in not compromising or seeing the other perspective or meeting in the middle because they dismiss or invalidate their spouse's reasonings on why things should happen. And they don't collaborate. And that is essentially prideful. I want to tell you a quick story. Well, I once worked with a couple where a husband really prided himself on his career success, and he often dismissed his wife's concerns about their relationship. And he believed that his financial contributions were enough, more than enough. And it wasn't until he realized how his pride was pushing his wife away that he finally began to prioritize that emotional connection and humility, even in their marriage, and it did improve their marriage, but sadly, the wife experienced a lot of heartache at his expense because of his pride. Like, it took years for him to open his mind and his heart to that. Luckily, it did come, but so much of that suffering was unnecessary. And I wonder if you are potentially doing that to your spouse or to your kids. Now, let's talk about the kids aspect. So, in parenting, pride can hinder our ability to connect with and guide our children effectively. It could be difficulty admitting when you're wrong or you don't have all the answers, or comparing your children to other kids and fostering insecurity or resentment about that. A mother I was counseling was so focused on maintaining the image of a perfect family that she ignored her teenagers' cries for help. It wasn't until she let go of her pride and sought that professional help that their relationship finally began to heal. She had to let go of what other people were thinking or what she thought they were thinking. C.S. Lewis said this: pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next man or woman. Constantly comparing ourselves to other parents, other families, and really does rob us of that contentment and that gratitude that we have for our life. Like, maybe it's, oh man, everybody in our congregation has a new vehicle, but we don't. Or everybody gets to go on these nice vacations, but we don't. And, just constantly doing that. Or, man, such and such family doesn't seem to have anyone that is disrespectful to their kids, or they're never late for church, or their kids are always home for dinner, whatever it might be, or they always get their homework done. Like, these assumptions, when I have most of these families in my office, and when you actually get them talking, you realize nobody is buttoned up like we think they are. I can't say nobody. I'm sure there are a few, but very, very few of them are in the way that we believe. There is a very influential talk, maybe you've read it, maybe you've heard about it, called Beware of Pride by President Benson. And he talks about how pride affects not just our spiritual health, but it really does affect our mental and emotional well being as well, because it increases our stress and our anxiety as we try to maintain that perfect image that is truly unattainable, right? And it also strains relationships due to our unwillingness to be vulnerable. It also stunts our personal growth as we resist feedback or new ideas from other people and just stick to our own ways of doing things. Ezra Taft Benson said this: pride is concerned with who is right, humility is concerned with what is right. So you can use that for a little self check next time if you're like, am I being prideful? Am I not? Well, are you more concerned with who is right? Or are you more concerned with doing what is right? What's best for the family? What's best for your spouse? What's best for yourself collectively and not just because of your ego? So when we shift from defending our ego into seeking truth and growing, that's when there's that shift into humility and that antidote that we're seeking for. Now, my friends, this is simple to talk about, but it's so much harder to spot pride in ourselves. I want to share a quick personal story here. For years, I prided myself on being a super mom who could do it all without help. And it wasn't until I found myself exhausted and disconnected from my family that I realized my pride was preventing me from accepting support and truly being present with the people that I loved. And it's still something that I'm practicing. When we can recognize pride in ourselves, though, we pay attention to our defensive reactions and we are more receptive to feedback. It is not a quick fix, it takes time and practice. And then apologizing when we make mistakes. Just start by noticing when you're more concerned with being right than preserving relationships. Just notice your feelings. Another thing you can do is simply be aware of any of those feelings of superiority or judgment towards others that might pop up because we all have them. We do. We're human. We get in those stuck spots sometimes. I don't care who you are and how humble people think you are. We all have elements of pride within us. Remember, the antidote, though, is humility. And there are simple ways you can foster humility in your life, but it does take practice. But here are a few. You can practice gratitude daily and focus on the great things in your life. Even if you have a dumpy van that you just wish would die and you could get something more respectable, but obviously you wouldn't say it that way. You would say it a different way. Or being very grateful for the flexibility you have in your schedule or that your family is so blessed with health, whatever it might be. You could seek feedback from your spouse and your kids more often and be open to their perspectives without justifying the things that you've done, just listening and thanking them. You can admit your mistakes promptly and sincerely. You can embrace that vulnerability by sharing your struggles with friends, a therapist, whoever it might be, your spouse, just being raw and real and open, and then not getting snarky if they have anything to say about it. A dad in my practice that I work with started a nightly ritual of sharing one mistake he made that day with his kids. And it modeled this humility in this really beautiful way. It created this safe space for his kids to see him be open about his struggles and normalize that experience and modeled that for them as well. C.S. Lewis also said this. He's such an amazing person. I love his quotes. He said, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less." Isn't that beautiful? It's not that we don't think of ourselves, it's just that we think of ourselves less. It's not about diminishing our worth, but about shifting our focus to a higher and holier way, a better way, those higher principles. When we seek to overcome pride, we can experience those deeper, more authentic connections with our spouse and our kids and increase that empathy and understanding in our relationships. We have greater personal growth and adaptability, and we have reduced stress and anxiety because we're able to let go of that perfectionism. We also have greater joy and contentment in our daily lives. Now, my friends, again, I am not saying it is so simple to just let go of all of our pride, but these are just small, tiny things you can keep in mind as you try to heal from that pride and grow in humility. I hope that this will help you as it's helping me let go of some of that pride that is within all of us, recognizing again that it's maybe an unpleasant part of the human experience and that we are not terrible people because we have pride within us. It's just something we're working through as we try to grow in humility and as we try to show up as our best selves for our family. And we're not there yet, and that's okay. And neither are they, and that's okay too. So just a couple very quick Takeaways from today. Pride can manifest in very subtle ways, and it can affect our relationships and personal growth. Recognize that pride in ourselves. That's the first step towards changing. When we cultivate that humility, that leads to those deeper connections and that greater fulfillment. But overcoming pride really is ongoing, and it requires regular self awareness and those check ins and that practice, that help from our family members. Goal here is not to eliminate all sense of self worth or anything like that, but it's that healthy balance between humility and pride. So, best of luck as you try to navigate this yourself and cultivate more of that humility in your own life. That's all I have for today, my friends. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Don't forget to check out our courses and don't hesitate to make that small investment towards becoming your best self, whether that's our personal growth course, or that's our marriage course, or that's our coming parenting course. These are such simple ways to take your personal and family fulfillment to the next level. Don't hesitate. So check it out on fulfillmenttherapy.org. I will see you in just a few days because we have new episodes every Monday and Thursday. So I'll see you back here then. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you, no matter what your house or your hair looks like. I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.